Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead. Not going to lie to you, I teared up a lot during this episode. This is probably like the most recent episode that hit me hard like this. I'd probably say like the last one that kind of like had me feeling very emotional was probably season 7 premiere with the whole like Abraham and Glenn situation. But this episode, it just everything, dude, all the feels. Because at the same time, it's something I kind of brought up in the mid-season finale. What's affecting matter is what makes it even sadder is because you know that Carl is still alive in the comic books. If he was dead in the comic books too, I don't know. I don't know whether that makes me feel better or not. I mean, I think the reason why it also hits me even harder too is because I don't know the comic books. It's not like, oh, I can go off and enjoy this character in the comic. It's like, no. The Carl I've come to know is the one from the TV show. So I'm like, it's a whole thing. Nevertheless, the fact of the matter is, I thought the only people he might have wrote letters to were maybe like Michonne and Rick. It's like, no, he wrote the letters to everyone because he saw that one was like for Enid, and it's like, oh my god! And everyone's just got to sit around below, and it's like knowing the condition of Carl's, and it just sucks. But you've been having Daryl remind him, was like, you see all these people? This was you. That was all you. Like Carl was like badass, like what he was doing last episode. Like I was talking about, the fact is willing to sacrifice himself. He's like, you kill me and let everyone go, because he already knew the clock was ticking, and he didn't even know if his dad was going to get back in time. He saw that Michonne was, but he wrote the letters just in case too. He didn't get to say everything he wanted to say, so that's even more so why for everyone he doesn't get to talk to. But man, just everyone tearing up. You have Rick and Michonne, and just them tearing up, grabbing onto him. It broke my heart. I was like, it was so. It was like, oh god, it's so heartbreaking, dude. And then on top of that, just hearing Carl see everything that he said, because they end up finding out Sadiq actually has medical training, so he's kind of a doctor, and it's like, oh, like Carl, you saved him to do that, and it's like, no, I saved him because it was the right thing to do that, because if I didn't, Sadiq wouldn't have made it on his own. I didn't even know about him being a doctor. That's just a happy coincidence. The reason why I saved him is because he needed our help, and because even going along with that was a whole Rick being like, oh, it was them, wasn't it? Because Carl's like, no, I got bit. It wasn't anyone's fault. It just happened. And I think that's kind of representing, like, it could be representing two different things. One could represent the fact is, because you get so caught up in everything, you do forget about the threat of the dead to a certain extent. Like, because it's an issue that hasn't been a big problem for them. Like, people tend to be the biggest issue in the show. Yes, the dead are a problem, but more so than anything, it's like we've been battling the saviors, and they've been our main focus, so we haven't really thought too much of the walkers. Maybe it's a different situation of kind of putting in perspective of like, yo, still watch out for the walkers. Like, you get so caught up in everything, like you think they're not as big of an issue as people are, especially when people are armed and everything. But it's like, maybe it's supposed to represent how much of a threat they are. Or it could also be seen as like hey, no matter how experienced you are, just things happen. Either your guard's down or whatever, but even the most skilled person can get killed under these circumstances. Because a lot of the times when Rick has lost people a lot more recently, it's been by like people's hands, not walkers. It's been a long time since he lost someone to a walker, Hasn't it been a very long time? Yeah, because like previously it always been like people. So it's like I said, once again, the whole war situation, the savior. So that's why I think in his mind too, it's like, no, you're my son. You're too good to be like taken down by a walker. But it's just like, no, it just that's how things are. And no matter how skilled you are, like when your time's up, that no one's beyond getting bitten. Even Rick can end up getting bit, So, which all this kind of pulls me back, and immediately my brain goes to thinking about Lee from the Telltale Walking Dead games. That's immediately where my brain goes to about this whole situation. You also end up finding out that the Dreamlo sequence, because it's like, oh man, Eugene's there, Jerry's there. He's like, yo, I literally rode all the way over here for from like, what was it, desserts or something like that. And then it's like, oh, like that. It's like, what is that? Like, is that Rick? It's like Rick's dream or fantasy. It's like, to a certain extent it is, but originally it's Carl's. It's what he saw, and he passes that dream on to Rick. It's like, because basically him, it's like, you can't just kill everyone when it comes to the saviors. You have to save some of them. You can't just go down this path, because the fact of the matter is there has to be something afterwards because if you just kill them, then what else is left, I mean, to be fair, they tried to give him a chance before, but just things didn't work out. So that was always the plan, to just kill Negan anyway. But, Carl was just kind of like, you don't have to kill everyone, like find a way forward. Because he even uses the example of what went down in the prison. It's like, what did you do? You brought in the whole governor's group from Woodbury, the ones that like were good. You brought them in, and we lived in harmony together. Because what I thought was kind of beautifully done too was the fact is that Carl, like, I vaguely remember the instance he's talking about where it's like a kid about his own age dropping a gun, but Carl still killed him anyway. And it's like, and that was one of those moments where Carl realized it is just that easy to kill someone. And to stop, him from going down that route, that he wanted his son not to just turn into a monster, that he gets so swept up in it. Which I thought was kind of beautifully done, how they cut back and forth between Carl and Morgan, but obviously I'll get to that. But like that comparison of like what Carl's talking about, Morgan's going through exactly, because Morgan didn't have a Rick there to help him go back from that. I mean, well, he ultimately did. He had an Eastman to kind of like do that for him, but recent circumstances obviously changed all of that for him. But nevertheless, getting back to it, it's like that was meant to so, Carl can live in a time of peace, so that like he see that there was another way that prevent Carl, like help Carl be who he is. And he's even like, thanks Dad for getting me. He's like, no, I meant to get you. It's like, no, I don't mean to this house. I meant here, to being the person that I am. I want to thank you for getting me here. And I'm like, oh, Carl. And because it's something I might have commented on recently. It's the whole situation around Herschel. What did like when Rick was like, okay, Governor, you and your people can stay here with us. It's going to be good. It's going to be okay. Everyone can win this way. And you saw Herschel being proud of him because of what Rick was doing. He was trying to find another way. And I think Carl is kind of representing that in this moment too, of like, there can be another way. There has to be more. I saw this dream and I know you can make it come true. And Rick's like, I will. Messed up thing is, in that dream, we do see that Negan's there. I don't think Rick will let that stand. Like, there are too many people that want Negan dead. He's at the top of Rick's list. He's definitely at the top of Maggie's list, like Daryl's list. Like, everyone wants Negan dead. I don't think that's going to be a possibility. It might be a situation where ultimately Rick decides not to kill Negan, even though he's promised over and over again. I don't think he's going to be able to go back on his word. And that's what I'm the most curious about going forward, like what Rick will do. Because Michonne's going to be there trying to be his strength. Because it's like, Michonne, don't you hold on to this. Don't you be sad. Don't you be angry. You got to be strong for Judith, Dad, and yourself. But the fact of the matter is, like, it's like, yo, you're my best friend. And she's like, you're mine. I'm like, stop it with the damn feels. Like, oh my God. And even more so with that moment with Judith and just being like, I was curious what he was going to do about the whole hat situation, and he's basically passing it down to Judith. Because I get the feeling like immediately, like probably when it's all said and done in this season, I think they will do a jump cut. Like, I think that dream stuff is going to come true, but that's more so like, that's the goal. But whether it's going to be like that or not, I do feel like after this season, they will be doing a time skip. I think we really will be getting one at the end of the season. Ultimately, we'll have to see like what happens with all of that. Like, hopefully, because like Carl wants Rick to stay that person, but Rick's kind of like, I don't know if I can be that person under these circumstances. But like, you don't always have to hold your gun. You can put your gun down, so we'll ultimately see who Rick is when this is all said and done, who everyone is. Like I said, like going back to it, we see Morgan struggling with that this episode, but passing on the hat to Judith and be like, sometimes we kids have to like show our parents the way, I mean, it just sucks, dude, because Rick is losing his baby boy, man. This is his son, and it's like, as a father's supposed to protect his son. And for Michonne, like, once again, brought up the conversation of best friends, like Carl's the person she's gotten closest to. They've always been a duo. That's been a team. And, it's just like, in a sense, that's kind of like losing her son too, because Carl's kind of been like that for her. Like, Rick and Carl have filled that like void of family for her. Like when, under her, we know her circumstances. So it's like, this is the first family she's had in a long time, so that just downright sucks. Oh, and you also had like Michonne pleading Dwight. It's like, go tell them to stop. They'll listen to you, just please. And she's crying. It's like, no. But the thing is, even if Dwight had gone out there, he would have just ended up getting killed, because they wouldn't have listened to Dwight, especially now that they know he's a traitor. Like, he wasn't going to be welcomed with open arms. So, but Rosita steps up and is like, okay, what do we do? And like Dwight's like, we can't go anywhere because even if, we stay here, we pretend we're a lot safer because they're not going to keep that up forever because they don't have the ammunition for that. So they didn't bring enough supplies to actually destroy Alexandria. So what we have to do is wait, and Rosita kind of backs him up with that. So, which was kind of interesting. So, because, his biggest non-fan is, Tara, because, she's still, obviously, last episode kind of changed things, but still, like, still probably not Dwight's biggest fan. But nevertheless, it did work out that eventually the Saviors left, so they were able to, leave and go to the hilltop, taking Judith with them. And it's just like, man, especially because you see that little bit of like Carl spending his last moments, like taking a picture and spending time with Judith and doing everything, pretending like everything's okay. It's just like, they knew how to hit you hard in this episode. And I think it was a beautiful thing that they did, dedicating this time to this particular character. Because it is a character that you weren't, it's like, okay, like I said, once again, it's like, oh, you're safe. I think that does a beautiful job of raising the stakes and being like, oh yeah, even Carl dies. So that means potentially even Rick can. And then to me, that's always been my thought. Like, ultimately, this will end with with Rick dying. And because I'm very curious to see how much of a time, like, because in the dreams, it seems like, Judith's like maybe 7 or 8, something along those lines. So I'm curious to how much of a time skip they're going to do, like going forward. Because like I said, this is all going to end with that one way or another, however this plays out. Ultimately, I think it's going to end with them winning, but in the circumstances, what is winning? Will Rick 100% support everything that Carl wanted, or will he end up backing down from it and just want to wipe them out? You also have to think about where everyone else stands. You have Tara, you have Daryl, so. And I corrected that near the end of the episode because I figured out like Carl most likely got bit during the whole Sadiq thing. But I was like, oh man, the reason why, to be fair, everything happened the way it did because of what Daryl and Tara did. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. On some level, they still feel crappy. Like, even though they weren't the cause of that, like their home, Alexandria, being destroyed kind of fell on their shoulders because they did what they did. So, and on the other side of things in the kingdom, we have Carol and Morgan working together to try and save Ezekiel. But like I said, like I brought it up, like the whole aspect of Morgan struggling, you could tell it was happening because Morgan was just going full force for trying to kill everybody. And even to the point while he was in the middle of killing someone, he was like, no, because you could tell he wasn't saying that to the guy he was killing. It's like, no, he's saying that to himself because he's trying not to go back to being that person he was before, that person Rick met up with subsequently after the beginning, and the guy he was before he met up with Eastman, that guy who was so just content on killing because it's the only way he can feel that emptiness inside of him. It's the only way he can keep going, so you see him dealing with that, even to the point Carol's like, let's not bother with these guys, but it's like, nope, Morgan takes them out too. And he's just so driven, he doesn't care. Even though like Carol had to save him at one point, he still just kept going, and they end up killing everyone. Because even at one point when Ezekiel was like, hey, you can stop. We should get out of here. It's like, there's no need to get out of here. Everyone's dead already. I'm actually kind of sad things ended the way they did for Gavin, especially because Ezekiel, for multiple reasons, Gavin's been the most reasonable person. I guess in the same argument, I'm sure a lot of people, including Simon himself, could be like, oh, I've been nothing but reasonable. But it's like, especially with the way things that have always gone down between the kingdom and Gavin. Gavin's just like, Ezekiel, I always liked you. I don't want things to be this way. But even going like, hey, make sure there's room for Ezekiel, make sure he's comfortable. Give him a pillow or something. It's like, And the thing is that, Ezekiel's like, I chose this path and I'll accept the responsibility of it. And even Gavin's like, because he tells Gavin like, just because you're going down this one path doesn't mean you have to stay that path. There's always time to turn back. But Gavin's like, no, this is who I am. Things have kind of set in stone. So if he had changed his mind, do you think? I guess the example of that is Dwight. Like, Dwight changed everything around. So, to be fair, like, and it's something that Carl had talked about, like, making enemies out of allies. Like, technically, let's not forget who was an enemy before. Tara was an enemy before, but it's like, easily part of the family, no matter what had happened, Glenn had brought her along because it's like, yo, you helped me and you helped me get back to Maggie. I will support you being a part of this group because you got me here. You obviously didn't want to be a part of everything, so especially for Tara because she lost so much because of Governor and everything, but obviously nevertheless, And even to the point, Ezekiel and Carol were telling him, you don't have to do this when it comes to Gavin, but he was like, I have to, just that urge inside of him, because it's just like, and even Carol's like, I know you don't want to do it. And the one who ends up doing it is Henry, Bradley's brother. And so it's like, you see Morgan kind of distraught about it, because it's like, probably when he looks at Henry, he probably sees his own son, and it's just like, I am the way I am, being kind of like tormented by like what he's kind of having to do, that impulse inside of him, and seeing it happen to Henry. It's at the same time, the whole situation with Carl too, because so it's like, once you go down that path, it becomes like, it might become a little too easy for you. You might not even look at even people as people anymore. You might just look at them as targets. But it seems like Ezekiel might be there to kind of keep him from going down that path. Because even you could tell even Henry's bothered by it, because it's like, hey, I had to do it, because this is, he was also one of the people responsible for Bradley's death. Even though it's not him, that guy's at the hilltop. So I'm curious also, what does that mean for all the 100% going for it, for all those saviors at the hilltop, like with this, especially when the news comes out about Carl and everything. So I know, so I can't forget what Siddiq said in this episode, because apparently I didn't realize it till afterwards, but that's the name of this episode, is Honor. Because for Siddiq, it's like, what you did for me, like, I'm going to honor you by proving to everyone, your friends and your family and all the people you care about, that what you did, that it wasn't a waste, that there was meaning. There is meaning to you, what you've sacrificed for me. And he's just like, well, you kind of, and then he tells Siddiq, hell, you kind of stuck with us now, so. And also kind of sadly that, Carl made the decision to take himself out, so it's a downer of an episode is all I can say. Still, without a doubt, a phenomenal episode of just everything that it did. And I'm like I said, I'm glad that they gave a full episode of doing this, because it isn't just about Carl's exit. It is about pushing the story forward too, because it is a question of what will they do going forward now, so many questions. Also, like, the saviors are down a general, lieutenant, that kind of position, second in commands, that well, actually technically they're down too, because Dwight's not with them anymore, plus this whole situation. What's also interesting too is the fact is that Eugene was also a part of that. So Eugene could probably always have a potential of coming back, especially because he's letting the doctor and Gabriel get away. The last time we left everything off in the last episode. So I guess that also adds another element to it as well, because there's a whole, like, now they have two doctors type of situations. Because part of me wonders, is that supposed to be like, yeah, kind of saying like the doctor that's with Gabriel might not make it. I hope this doesn't turn into, God, what was, wasn't it Noah type of situation? I hope it doesn't turn into that Noah type of situation, because it's like, God, what was Maggie's sister's name? Oh, I forgot. Like, when she died, at the same time Noah joined the crew. But let's not forget what happened to Noah. He literally brutally died. I still hands down say one of the most brutal deaths of the show. Ended up dying like a few episodes later. So it's like, I hope they don't do that to Siddiq. I think they're going to be keeping Siddiq around. I am curious to see what's going to happen between him and Rick going forward. I'm sure Rick's not going to blame him, because Carl's like, no, I would have done. I mean, to be fair, I almost let that slip my mind too. Is like, the fact is, Rick is probably going to blame himself amongst anyone. I mean, if he blames Siddiq, it's probably just going to be like him, like, projecting, because for him, it's like, he's the one from the gas station, because he now realizes that if he had saved Siddiq then, maybe Carl wouldn't be in a situation he is right now. So he's most likely going to blame himself. It's like, because it's like, what did I, and that's kind of what Carl was getting at before, is like, the fact of the matter is, you cared about people. You brought this group of enemies together, and you created this good place at the prison and everything, a home for everybody to share. And it's like, because they're so caught up in this war, they're not willing to just help out whoever, because Rick would ask the questions before, but that's something I didn't even think about at the time. It's like, because they're so caught up in the war, Rick, when they meet other people, that he'd ask the questions, but he didn't even ask them. Carl had to be the one to ask them later on when he met up with Siddiq later. So I don't even think I commented on it at that time, but nevertheless, it's just an element that I'm curious to see how they continue forward. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what the next episode, as well as the rest of the season, has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good